the bloodiest fight in Ultimate Fighter history.
So when I say bloodiest fight in tough history, I did not give it that title. I was told by like the directors and like the people who work for the UFC that was the bloodiest fight. DC calls back and he's like, "Hey, I have Chael on the phone. Chael wants to talk to Jeff." And so Chael gets on the phone and he's like, "So Andreas is going to come over 5 pounds over and I want to pay you to take the fight." Coach Rosando, who's the boxing coach for DC, he's like, "Fuck that." He's like, "Make it $2,500 per pound. Chael's working for ESPN now. He's got money. $2,500 per pound." And Chael just goes, "I'm going to the bank right now. I'll see you in an hour." Just hangs up the phone like that.
Cause my mother told me as a child, boy, don't play around with fire, cause you might just end up getting burned. And I know the wicked never rest, so I always try my best, but there's some lessons hard for me to learn.
What's up, brother?
What's up? How we doing?
Today's the day, dude.
Today is a big day.
It's a really big day.
Yeah.
First, I just want to definitely shout out Elvin and Ethan for hooking it up with this room over at the Ocean Park Inn.
Heck yeah.
It looks beautiful. We're looking at the beach right now.
Yeah.
This is amazing, dude. Like,
this is great.
Shout out to those guys for being like so humble and just like really cool people.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, it's so cool that they were able to help us out with that.
Yeah, it doesn't get much of a better view than this. San Diego by the beach.
People watching.
People watch. It's pretty right. So,
It's sick. So how you feeling?
Dude, I feel great. Today's man, I woke up and I just was like, wow, today is gonna be an amazing day for sure. There'll be a lot of emotions, I think, throughout the day. Being with loved ones, being with friends, but to just be as here as I can be, not think about the future, the past, just be in the present and just enjoy it. So,
in what we might call the bloodiest fight in Ultimate Fighter history.
So when I say bloodiest fight in tough history, I did not give it that title. I was told by like the directors and like the people who work for the UFC that was the bloodiest fight in tough history. So it's not like just me, and you'll see in the episode because they say it too. It's not me just like going out and just being like, "Oh yeah, I have the bloodiest fight in tough history." Like, no, there's people who have worked the show for all the seasons. We're like, "Yep, I think that was the one." And I was like, okay, well, that's a good badge for me to, go ahead and be able to claim that I have the bloodiest fight in tough history.
Yeah, so it was, what was his name? Andreas
Binder.
Binder?
Yeah.
Or Binder?
I think it's Binder.
Okay.
Yeah,
cool.
Andreas
So he had a bit of some issues going on.
So he had, you know what? So I like to say this because I hope Andreas sees this because it's kind of funny. So when we got into the house the first day, we all, like, both his teams, we all have mutual respect for each other. And we're like, hey, we'll eat one meal together. Both teams, doesn't matter what team you're on. And Andreas was the best cook in the house by far. His cooking was so good that he couldn't make weight. That's what I like to say. His cooking was so good that he missed weight by 5 pounds. And that's, obviously that's a very important part of fighting. You got to make weight. But he showed us all of his cooking skills the first night, and it was like some of the best food I've ever had. So for him to be eating like that all the time, I can see why he missed weight. Still not an excuse, but that's how I look at it now. Through kind of those lenses, without it being like any serious like beef between me and him. Of course, in the moment I was pissed off. I'm cutting weight at the UFC PI, and Mike Chiesa gets a call from DC, and DC's like, hey, they're going to miss weight. And he's like, so just know that he's going to miss weight. You continue to make weight and we'll figure it out. So in my head, I'm like, of course, all the scenarios are playing off in my head. Am I going to fight? I wonder how far off he is. What is going to really happen here? I kind of was thinking it was going to kind of be a nightmare scenario. And it ends up being a pretty amazing scenario because they call back and DC calls back. And he's like, hey, I have Chael on the phone. Chael wants to talk to Jeff. And so Chael gets on the phone and he's like, what's going on, Jeff? And I'm like, tell me the bad news. And he's like, so Andreas is going to come over 5 pounds over, and I want to pay you to take the fight. And I want to pay you per pound that he misses weight. And I said, okay. And how much money are we talking per pound? And he's like, $1,000 per pound. And I literally I have the phone up and I just put the phone to my leg. And I hope they get this on camera and they show it tonight. But I put it to my leg and I'm like, he says $1,000 per pound. And Coach Rosando, who's the boxing coach for DC, he's like, fuck that. He's like, make it $2,500 per pound. Chael's working for ESPN now. He's got money. And so $2,500 per pound. And Chael just goes, I'm going to the bank right now. I'll see you in an hour. Just hangs up the phone like that. And so I'm like, well, we're going to fight. So like, all right, now I'm getting what I want. So we get to weigh-ins and so they like, this is the only part that I would say they like kind of pre-planned or like staged a little bit. They just kind of set the stage. They let me say whatever I wanted, but they kind of set the stage like, hey, so Chael and DC are going to go talk. And then Chael's going to ask you, hey, will you take the fight for the $12,500? I was like, okay. And they're like, you can say whatever you want after that. And then we'll do the standoff. And so I'm standing there and, they do their little meeting and they're rolling the cameras. And Chael's like, hey, will you take the fight for the $12,500? And I just say, I was going to beat your boy's ass anyways, but yeah, I'll take your money too. And Chael kind of chuckled and everybody's like, oh, damn. And then I was telling, Andreas, like, let's get the face off going. Like, we're going to fight. I'm not here to not fight. We all came here to fight. It's his fault that he's over. But if I were to not fight, I wouldn't get any respect. It wouldn't look good for one. If I had the option to not fight and I chose that. And I was like, dude, I'm going to get paid. I was like, I'm down to fight somebody if they don't make weight, but I just want to get incentivized for it. And so the 2,500 was definitely worth the squeeze. And so that's what it happened.
Well, it's definitely a lot more than 2,500.
Or 2,500 per pound.
Per pound.
12,000. Yeah, the 12,005 was definitely worth the squeeze.
Oh,
so
dude.
yeah, I was like, yeah, absolutely, okay. So I'm glad Rosando spoke up and said like, hey, make it $2,500 per pound. Because I don't know what I was thinking in that time. I was cutting weight. I had a lot of shit going on in my head. So I was like, I don't even know if I would have just said yeah. I don't know what kind of mindset I was in. So I was happy that I put the phone down and actually asked like, hey, this is what he's saying. How much should I, And they were like, nah, tell him to go up. And I was like, hell yeah, that's what I wanted.
Big Money Creighton.
Big money,
here,
yeah.
dude.
And so it's so crazy that so after the fight happens, the Big Money Creighton, Mike Chiesa calls me in. Like that's what when we get in he's calling me money. He said money bags, but then he said Big Money Creighton. And it's funny because he's not the first person to call me that. Like the actual first person calling me that is Enrique Marte, who's my teammate. Enrique and Hulkhands, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Hulkhands
up,
started calling
Hulkhands?
me Big Money before like the show or anything. So it's kind of funny now that other people are now calling me Big Money, but that wasn't the first time I've been called Big Money.
That's so funny.
It was kind of just like a light bulb in my head went off. I was like, oh, I'm running with this whole Big Money Creighton thing.
So talk about that walkout.
Dude,
what was that
okay.
like?
Man, okay, so the walkout, you're warming up and you're trying to visualize. I was thinking about how in all the other episodes in past seasons, how the guys throw open the doors and then they walk and trying to visualize that. And so we had been out in that area. I had been in the cage before, but man, the feeling is kind of something you can't even explain. And I feel like you get to the doors and you staged there and you're like, man, like the only thought that was going through my head was all of it was totally worth it. Like my whole journey, everything that I've been through, the years of training, the years of up and downs, are totally worth it for this moment right now. And so when I threw the doors open and I look, you see Dana White sitting there. That's first thing is I saw Dana. That was the first thing I saw. But then everybody else, it's quiet. It's so quiet. And it's kind of like how COVID was when the fights were just at the Apex. Like there's nobody really there. Nobody's saying anything. You've got no walkout music and it's just quiet. And so it's a little bit eerie for sure. I would say I was definitely like, oh wow, okay, this is how it is, as I walked out. But once I got to the cage and they do the Vaseline and everything, and Andreas was already in the cage, I was zoned in. I was like, okay, I'm gonna perform. I knew I was gonna perform, and my warm up was good. All the coaching that I got from DC and John and Mike Chiesa, I was like, I'm definitely dialed in right now, and it paid off for sure. I got in there and I didn't have to think about anything.
How'd you feel that first round? So tell me how that went.
So the first round, man, even go before the first round. This is the eeriest part of the whole thing was, so you're both in the cage. There's no music. You're looking across at each other. Me and Andreas are looking at each other. They have two cameras, one panning at him, one panning at me from the center of the cage. And the ref, I think Herb Dean was our ref, is just standing there. And we're just standing there for like a minute solid, like a minute, maybe 2 minutes, just looking at each other, pure quietness. And then all of a sudden the two cameramen, like they get the signal, they pan out of the cage, they close the cage doors, and they just said, and then Herb just steps up. You ready? You ready? So there's no announcement. There's no intro to you. You're just there fighting all of a sudden. And so that it didn't throw me off, but it was like, whoa, like you're just in it now. Yeah. And so, you know what I mean? So that was crazy. I wasn't prepared for that. The first round, I would say initially wasn't really going my way. I was having a tough time like finding my distance. And Andreas is a knockout artist. He's known for knocking people out. And so I came out, and the one thing I do remember is I threw like a lead head kick right out of the gate, and I could feel my toes like slap his face. And I was like, okay, I'm like right there, you know, and we're both kind of trading. And at one point, I think I like went to kick his leg, and he like crashes, takes me down, and I'm on my back. And I was like, okay, I don't really want to be here, obviously, but like, okay, I'm here. So what am I going to do? And I did a good job of like spinning off the cage for an arm bar. And I like started to pop his arm. I could hear his arm, like feel his arm pop a couple times. And he like picked me up and like shook me out of the arm bar. But then I was able to get back up to my feet. And at one point, I was looking over at DC. The guy, I think Andreas had his arms locked around me, pushed me against the cage. I'm looking over at DC, and I'm trying to like hear what he's saying. I'm literally making eye contact with him. I'm like, what? What are you saying? And literally DC just goes like this. Like, and I'm like, all right, I'm on my own, bro. I was like, I can't hear anything DC's saying. And he's got his hands in his he's got his face in his hands. And clearly I'm not doing what he's telling me to do. So I was kind of like, all right, I'm just out here by myself. So I'll figure it out. And so I think I ended up turning him off the cage. Fast forward, all I remember is the 10-second clacker going off. And we're kind of clinched up. And I'd just been drilling and hit this elbow so many times before in practice, and with when Nathan Corbett, when I was training with him, I stepped back and like pulled the hand down and threw a hard elbow. And I just felt like it wasn't even like I hit anything hard. It just felt like I skipped, like almost like skipping a rock. You know, so I knew something touched. And then he kind of stumbled backwards, and the time went out, and I look, and he's just dripping down his face. And I was like, oh, that one landed clean. And then so he kind of went back to his corner. I went back to my corner, and I could tell that the tides were changing right then and there. And so the second round, I remember John coming in the cage, and he was like, hey, he's tired. He's broke now. Like, just go in there and put a lot of pressure on him. And that's exactly what I did. I just went out there, put a ton of pressure on him. I ended up opening up the cut some more with strikes, and then took him down, got him out, and busted him up even more. And it was just a nasty second round. I took his back, and I was so close to choking him, but there was so much blood that I was like swallowing, and like had blood in my nose and my ears, and like I could see red specks in my eyes, and it wasn't even my blood. Like, that's how bloody it was. I'd never been in anything like that.
That's crazy.
So that was I had to adjust. I thought it would be easier to rear naked choke him with all the blood, but I couldn't do it. I don't know if it was just because my arms were tired, or just like there was so much blood, and I was probably kind of like in shock of how much what was going on. But I could not finish the choke. But I stayed on his back the entire time and hit him. And just like at times it's like, all right, I can't choke this guy. I'm just literally gonna knock on the cut. Like I was like hitting it just in the cut, just to like have blood just spewing out of it. And so when that fight, so then when the second round ended, they kind of were like, hey, be ready. Like they think it's 1-1. And so I was like sitting there, I was like, okay, like I'm prepared for a third round. And then Herb goes, the fight's over. So I was like, dude, that's definitely us. So I just realized that right then and there that I had won, and that I had just got my first UFC win in the UFC Apex. That's how I looked at it. And I had always watched fights in the Apex, and probably, man, we'll go back in time, maybe 4 years ago, Haley and I had gone out to Vegas, and I did like a jiu-jitsu tournament called High Rollers. And so we were out here with some friends, and this is when the Apex was just first built. And so we went, and Haley's like, oh, I want to see it, whatever. And so we went, and I had told her that like someday I'm going to fight in this building. And she was like, that's crazy. And she went in, she tried to go in and use the bathroom just to see, and they kicked her out. So I thought that was funny. But like, I'd always told her, like, I'm definitely going to fight here one day. And, you know, that just happened. And I got my first win there. And, you know, and so like, just a flood of emotions kind of just hit me. And I don't really show it. I more than anything, I walked and there's just blood all over me. Like, my whole fight kit, like, it's just blood all over me. So I was trying to like take everything in, and people were taking you out of the cage and saying, hey, you got to go to medical. And there was just so many things going on and so many things going through my brain that like I couldn't even take it all in until I got to the back and like showered, and like then I was able to digest it. But it was wild. And it was wild to see in between rounds, to look, and I would look across the cage and Dana was on his side of the cage. So I could see Dana behind him. And I was just like, man, like, to think that now I'm fighting in front of Dana White, and I've been doing this for 12 years, and it's always been my goal to do that. You know, it just was surreal for sure. And so, yeah, moving on to the semifinals was like, hell yeah. And I didn't take any real damage. None of the blood was my blood. And so, and I wasn't really that sore. I was like, actually, I feel pretty good for what just happened. And, you know, I got to move on to the next round, and I didn't really take any damage. So I was feeling super confident after that. I was like, this is mine to win.
Did DC talk to you after that?
Yeah, DC was just like, hell of a fight. I think DC he told me he was surprised that it didn't go to a third. And I got to say, I was kind of too, only because I had gotten taken down. I had gotten hit with some big punches in the first, but DC was just like, hell of a fight. Way to put the pressure on him and do exactly what we said. And at the next practice, I'd asked him, hey, what were you telling me? Because I was across the cage, like, what are you saying? Like, what were you trying to tell me? He was like, oh, I was telling you to cover the head. Like, you got to put all your weight on your head. I was like, dude, I didn't hear any of that. So there was a lot going through my head, obviously, during the fight. But yeah, I think I was really blessed to be on DC's team, even though being like the third pick out of the welterweights, like, he was a really good coach, and you could tell he was there to win. And him and John and Mike Chiesa, like, were just really good mentors for me while I was there.
And he's so like he's so friendly to everybody. Like, I love that little speech that he gave to the Indian guy that lost last week.
Arshian.
Yeah, Arshian.
Yeah.
Imenon.
Imanol. Yeah.
Or no, the Imanol's the other guy.
Imanol's our guy. Yeah.
But yeah, I just like the way they like went over and talked to him and kind of like gave him like a little pep talk and everything.
Yeah.
Because that video for that guy was crazy, dude. Like,
Arshian's the
dude.
wild
He lives
man.
the other guy. He lives in
Imanol.
like the slums, dude.
Oh yeah, Imanol.
Yeah, the Indian guy.
Oh, Arshian. Arshian is the Indian guy.
Yeah.
Yes.
But yeah, just like seeing where he came from and stuff. So I thought that was really cool. So I was curious.
I thought they did a good
with that.
They thought they did a good job of showing both of their stories, Imanol and Arshian's story. You know, where they come from, the humble beginnings, you know, the environment that they grew up in. Like, I just thought they did a good job of painting that and giving respect to that in the episode.
Is there anything that like stuck out to you from the people that are on your team that talked to you afterwards?
That talked to me afterwards.
After the fight, whether you got to the house or...
Everybody was definitely like, man, that was a really good fight. What are you about to say? You already wanted to say something.
I was going to ask you afterwards, did you have any, what did you say to Andreas, or did he...
Oh, yeah,
what did he say to you?
He just said it was a great fight and you were the better man that night. Yeah, it was pretty simple. It wasn't like anything crazy. I think we both have a lot of mutual respect for each other, even though he didn't make weight. And I think at the face-off, I had gotten a little bit emotional because I was like, dude, this is the biggest opportunity of our lives, and you're going to miss weight by that much. So I told him at the weigh-in, I said, I'm almost 99% sure I said, I just want it more than you. And he responded with, we'll see about that. And I said, no, we already saw you quit on yourself today. You're quit on yourself tomorrow. And so I had just been a little upset because it's just such a big opportunity, and, you know, you got to be professional. And so I let it get to me. But after the fight, there was no bad blood at all. And he understood, you know, like, it's the fight game. Things happen. It's a wild way to make money, and just wild lifestyle. And
I
so
know.
you know what I mean? Like, and I had said his cooking's just too good for him. Too good for him. So
Well, we might need to hit him up, dude.
yeah,
Come out.
actually, yeah, I might need to hit him up for some recipes at some point. But
Pick him up.
yeah, but other than that, I think it was a lot of positives. Obviously, from like the coaches, they were really impressed how I was able to adapt even when things quite weren't working out for me at first, and I was super confident after that. You know, just going to practices and like, you know, you get through the first step, you get through the first round with really no injuries and no damage really taken. Like that's a blessing. And like I was like, okay, I put myself in a really good spot, and so I was really confident after that.
Did they do anything like recovery wise with you after that fight? Like, you doing like ice baths or like any kind of?
Man, they let it. You know what? They let us do ice bath and sauna and hot tub like 2 or 3 times a week the entire time we were there. They'd take us over to the PI and let us get all of our recovery in that we really wanted. And if there was something really bothering us, we could go to them. Like we could go to the producers, and they would like take us and like if we needed a sports massage or we needed to get like chiropractor work, like we could go do that. You know, it's kind of like private and like
I would have been like
case by case basis. Yeah, and some people probably milked it a little more than others, but you know, I think that the producers did a good job of not having a favorite. They were very professional, and they wanted us to just be able to perform our best. And I think they did a good job of that. Like if we came and complained about anything, they were super helpful in helping us with that. You know, so.
You want here? We're gonna have Mama Creighton come in here. No, you gotta come in here.
I just wanted to ask.
Well, they can't hear you though.
Yeah, so you
got-
you slide in here, Mom. Come on over. There, you gotta. Yep.
You gotta go to that one.
I only have one question.
Just say your one question.
What kind of rehydration do they do after you cut weight?
You just rehydrate yourself.
Any way you want?
Well, not any. I mean,
I was going to say, what are the...
no.
I was just wondering.
Go sit down in your chair, Mom.
Wait, no, you don't got.
No.
But nobody brought you the honey and the salt?
No.
Your mom usually-
Nobody brought the honey and the salt. I had to do that by myself.
We have a thing that we do where I bring honey and salt.
Salt,
and-
yeah.
Anyway, okay, that's all.
You
I
do a
wanted
great
to
job,
say.
Mom.
Thank
But
you.
yeah, that's. You're funny, Mom.
I'll make you
I knew she was gonna
a
do
whole
that.
jar of honey,
Honey and salt. Yeah.
The Mexicans have a different way. One of my buddies, we used to live with him, he was like, "Oh, you're sick? Here, take some of this." And I was like, "It's freaking tequila and honey."
Oh wow.
And they just do like a spoonful of it.
Yeah.
when they're
Dang.
sick. I was like, this is crazy.
Yeah, that's wild. I'm super excited to just watch the episode and see how they portray my story, and then how they show all the stuff with the problem with the weight cutting, the fight happening, the fight announcement.
They don't use any of our footage.
Yeah, I think they will. I'll put a running bet that I'm almost sure they'll use some of our footage.
Yeah, some of them were good.
Yeah,
we got a shot somewhere down.
They
the
probably
street.
just use the random shot of the bird.
Dude, just
and
use
then,
that.
And then just use that.
If you use that pelican shot,
Pelican shot.
and then I can literally just point and say, "I filmed that."
I filmed that.
My life is good from there.
but
Honestly, there's so much stuff that they got to pack in there with the whole weight cut thing. Like, I think that's the only thing I was curious is like, I know they're not going to use like a good chunk of it.
I think they might do where they show more of my story in the second episode. But that then the second or like my second episode, so my semifinals fight, they might show a little bit more of my story. But that episode I think will be filled too with all sorts of stuff. So I don't really know.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
I got to go back and watch the other seasons and see how they handled it then.
Yeah. So we'll see. But if anything, you're gonna find out how I fight in this one. If they don't get really into my story, you'll be like, well, his story's pretty good. He just went in there and kicked this guy's ass and made it the Bloodiest fight in tough history.
So it seems to be working out
it
pretty
worked
well
out for him. So yeah, I think that's the biggest thing is like, everybody got their money's worth buying their ESPN Plus subscription, and it's a good fight.
Definitely.
Yeah. So
definitely. I had a lot of people asking me about it.
Oh,
So I was like, just Tuesday, bro.
Yeah, you gotta watch it Tuesday,
gotta
bro.
watch it
I don't know what
Tuesday.
to tell you.
Joe called me, Joe Stevenson. He was like, hey, so is this week? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, hell yeah, I'll be watching it at 7. So I was like, oh, cool. And like Dusty and his whole family and stuff. So everybody's super stoked, dude.
Yeah, man.
There's gonna be people screaming on couches all across the state for you.
All across the state, all even on the East Coast too. I've got a bunch of people from North Carolina who are going to be screaming on couches.
I know quite a few of them, actually.
Yeah.
Thanks for the Olive Garden, by the way, wherever you guys are, if you're watching this. That was a good trip.
Yeah, that was a good trip.
Hopefully, we get another one soon.
Yeah. Hopefully we get some news soon. You'll have to see and watch whether I'm in the finale or not. But I don't know when the finale is going to be. They haven't released any date.
So how does it work? So the finale isn't part of the show anymore. It goes directly to a card after that?
Yes.
Is that the idea?
Yes.
Got it.
But they haven't announced which card it will be on. So,
But regardless, it's going to be this summer.
I would think. So the last episode of the show is August 12th. So you'd figure right after that. So the Chicago card's August 16th. That's kind of what makes sense in my head. It would be. But I don't know.
Go to Chirac.
Go to Chirac. Yeah.
That'd
I've actually never been to Chicago. So it would be cool to go.
That'd be super rad.
That'd be sick. Yeah.
And it'd be in the middle of summer. There's no blizzards out there.
No.
That'd be cool.
The closest I've ever gotten to being in Chicago was Hammond, Indiana, and it was in like February. Dude, it was so cold and miserable. And we went with it was me and Hulk Hands. We went and cornered my buddy Larry on, who now is fighting on Dana White Contender Series this upcoming season. And super cool guy, but he fought Chepe Mariscal, who's in the UFC now. But he fought him in some show in Hammond, Indiana. And we pull up to this place and it was freaking cold, man. It was like 15 degrees.
Holy crap.
We went to YMCA to cut weight. There's bullet holes in the YMCA. We're like, they're like, yo, don't go down these certain streets on the map that like where we went to our hotel. We're like, this is for real. But
not around here, partner.
Yeah. So we had to watch where we were going, but that's as close as I've gotten to Chicago. So I'd really like to go in and actually enjoy it.
Come on, Dana.
Yeah, actually. Yeah. So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, it'll be great. I'm looking forward to it. I'm proud of you. You're doing everything the right way.
It's been a long time coming.
It's been a long time. I remember taking pictures for you when I first met you.
Yeah.
For your Bellator fight.
Oh yeah.
And we're literally just like makeshifting a photo room up in that crazy room.
In the VIP section of
we had to, it was literally just like a construction area, and we had no area for a backdrop, so we took some of the mats and like flipped them on their side and use it for a backdrop.
That was great. Humble beginnings, but you know what, I look back at times like that, and for guys like you, like Dan, even before that, you know, you go back to me working with Nathan Corbett, like everybody has a role when it comes to this. You know, it's like I get in the cage and I do the fighting, but there's a lot more behind the scenes that happens that allows me to do that. You know what I mean? And so like I just want to take a moment to appreciate you and everybody else who's, you know, had a part in this, because without you there is no this. You know, there isn't this big platform. There isn't as the journey's not as sweet. You know, that's the best way to put it. And I'm appreciative for everybody who's, whether they're still, you know, on my journey with me, or they just come and gone and, you know, time has gone and they're doing something else. Like I appreciate everybody that I've passed through and I'm still working with. And, you know, this is just the beginning.
Yeah. Well, I think it's very like infectious when you're around people that are just so genuine. Like that's one of the things I appreciate about meeting your whole family and stuff is it's like when people have their hearts in the right place, it's so easy to want to do everything that you can for them, you know?
Yeah, very true.
So it's like, that was one of the goals with this whole podcast in the first place, is like, your fight career is such a small part of your life. Like if we could kind of set it up in a way where like your wife's taken care of and your future kids are taken care of and all, you know, all that stuff, where we can kind of build something that we can connect with the community and stuff. That was the whole goal, you know, back when it was just like, hey, maybe we should think about doing a podcast and
we'll just chat about random things. And it's come a long way. And I think we could keep moving in the right direction, but this has just been an amazing experience, and I think this is just the beginning of something great. And I'm looking forward to it.
It's going to be super great, brother.
Yeah, and I hope everybody keeps tuning into the show. The rest of the season, there's a whole lot more to unpack. Obviously, I cannot speak about it right now, but at some point, we will definitely do another episode and catch up on, my future semifinals fight and everything else that happens in the house, and maybe even bring some of the guys on. I think it would be cool to interview some of the guys that were in the house.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And let them tell their story, through kind of what from their lens of being in the house and going through tough and their experience.
Yeah,
So,
definitely.
yeah.
Yeah, I definitely would love to set that up.
Yeah.
So real quick, just before
Yeah.
we get out of here, talk about your training.
Yeah. So, right now I'm basically taking a month to go train in Las Vegas at Syndicate MMA. And, since the show, I've been training, but I haven't really been training. You know what I mean? I haven't been training for a fight. I'm in the gym. I'm training here and there, but it's nothing like what I need to be doing. And, I just thought there's no better way to kind of give myself a kick in the ass than going out to Vegas and training with some of the best guys in the world. I think that's no matter what, I was that's kind of what I need right now. And so, I've gone to Syndicate MMA and been training with some of those guys. Great team. All the coaches there are amazing. I was there. The room is filled with just guys who are either in the UFC or right at the UFC's door, kind of like I am. And so to have those rounds with those kind of guys and to just be pushed a little bit harder and get my ass kicked a little bit, that's really setting me up to prepare for whatever's next.
Yeah.
And so it's super exciting. Vegas is hot as hell. I do like Vegas. I enjoy it. I do love San Diego. It's making me love San Diego a lot more just because of the weather and that aspect. But the people there are great. The training there is amazing. But I'm going to stay there until the end of June. Come back in July. Hopefully I'll have news by then what's going to happen. And then I'll jump in the cam and start training again. Teams MMA. I'll be in Chula Vista still, training and getting ready with my coach Vince Salvador and my team over there, or our team over there. And so yeah, we're excited. I think I'm kind of I'm the first guy to kind of from the old arena group to the teams MMA that's going to be hopefully fighting in the UFC. And I just plan on just representing and bringing my whole team with me.
It must be kind of interesting for you right now, because this is probably one of the first times in a while that you're not the leader in training,
Sure.
Because normally I feel like your team down there is a lot of amateur guys right now. They're coming up and everything like that.
Yeah.
So it's you feel like a small fish in a big pond.
Yeah, definitely. I think at teams, obviously I'm one of the more seasoned guys. And I lead by example. But when you're in a place like Syndicate and there's guys there who have twice the amount of fights that you have, and they've already been in the UFC, they've seen things that I haven't yet. I haven't got to experience yet. So to be able to pick their minds and to just be in the same training room with them, brushing shoulders and doing rounds with them, I'm taking a lot from that. And so I know where I'm at right now. And, the first week was rough, honestly. I kind of got beat up pretty good, and I needed that. And so it made me realize kind of how out of shape I am, what I need to do going forward. But I'm very confident with the decision I made, staying out there for the month. I'll come back, and it's gonna be really good. I'm very excited.
And I'm very confident we're going to have a good ass night tonight.
We are going to have a good ass night tonight.
Thank you for listening, everybody.
Yep.
And tune in next time on the Fighter One podcast.
On the Fighter
catch
One
you
podcast.
later.
Thank you, guys.